Welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast, strategies that help entrepreneurs build reputable and profitable brands. Here's your host, Henry Kaminski Jr.
How to strengthen your leadership skills and build your team. Today's guest has spent 2 decades helping clients engage their employees in organizational strategy, vision, and values. It is an inspiring and always entertaining talks, which I've been able to do my homework and watch a few of these. These are amazing, amazing videos. This guy has some presence, I'll tell you. He provides real solutions for leaders looking to build culture, manage change, and drive innovation. His work is supported by research with more than 1 million working adults across the globe, revealing the proven secrets behind high-performance cultures and teams. He's the co-founder of Culture Works, a global training company, and author of multiple award-winning #1 New York Times bestsellers, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestsellers, all in The Carrot Principle and The Best Team Wins. His books have been translated into 30 languages and have sold more than 1.5 million copies. He's been called, quote unquote, fascinating by Fortune and creative and refreshing by the New York Times. He's also appeared on the NBC Today Show, CBS's 60 Minutes, and is often quoted in Fast Company, Newsweek, and the Wall Street Journal. In 2019, Global Gurus Research Organization ranked him number 11 among the world's top leadership experts and number 8 among the world's top organizational culture experts. He's a member of the Marshall Goldsmith's MG 100 Global Coaches and member of Fast Company's Impact Council. He also serves as a board member for Camp Coral, Camp Coral, a nonprofit for children of wounded and fallen military heroes. Without further ado, I want to introduce my man, Chester Elton.
Oh, thanks for that gracious introduction. I appreciate it. By the way, you had it right the first time. It's Camp Corral, like the corral for horses.
Oh, okay. I did have it right then. Okay.
In fact, the timing's great. They're kicking off their camps in the next few weeks. It's a wonderful organization funded by Golden Corral, the best buffet in the USA, right?
That's right. That is awesome.
Seriously, they have like 4,000 kids get to go to camp for free from wounded warriors and so on. It's a fact. They have 23 camps across the country, and I'm so glad you put that in my bio because I'm very passionate about that cause.
That is awesome. 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 You got it. So let's give the audience a little context around why you got into this industry in the first place and why it's so important to you 20 years plus later.
Great question, Henry. You always want to say, how did I get here, right? It's the old talking head song. Well, how did I get here? Interesting for me is that I've always felt like you spend so much time at work, it should be enjoyable. And I learned that from my father. My father, John Dalton Elton, started in broadcast radio and then ended up running radio stations. And he found joy in work, and he made sure that he created workplaces where people were engaged and joyful. And, if you've worked long enough, we've all had jobs where, when you woke up, the last thing in the world you wanted to go to work. Well, for whatever reason, it was your boss, it was the climate with your clients or customers or the industry in general. And life, as you well know, life is short, and you spend more time at work than you do, with your families. Work needs to be, I like to describe it as you've got to believe what you do matters. You've got to believe that you make a difference. And when you make a difference, hopefully there's somebody that noticed that and said thank you and reaffirmed that you were on the right track. So for me, it's all about just enjoying life, because when you're happy at work, and this is research done at the University of California, right? When you're happy at work, you're 150% more likely to be happy in your personal life. So that to me, that's why I'm passionate about it. We create great places to work so people go home happy and just have great lives.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You and I are cut from the same cloth. I'm not going to lie. So
and we use the same barber.
I love it. You're right. So let's get into today's topic of conversation. So a lot of my audience are business owners and entrepreneurs that have a hunger to grow. They don't like status quo. They're always looking to learn. They're always looking to grow. They're always looking to build. Yet we were talking offline and I told you how I struggled 5-6 years ago when I was building my business and needing to sort of replace myself and become more of a CEO of myself and the business, not the worker bee. And so, but I stumbled along the way because my leadership skills were probably questionable at best. I didn't even know where I was going. So how could I lead a team, right? So where does one start when it comes time to begin to grow and expand?
It's such an insightful question because I think we all struggle with that. We've all made bad hires. And sometimes it takes us a long time to get out of that hire, and we've all made great hires. And the question is, how do I eliminate those bad hires and get to the good hires? I think, we go about it somewhat wrong when we say, look, what's your experience? What's your education? Where have you worked before? What have you done? Tell me what you've done. Show me your CV, show me your resume. And the fact is everybody's resume looks great, right? I mean, nobody writes a bad resume. Nobody, starts off by saying, you know what, I'm very mediocre. I will punch the clock and I will do the bare minimum. And if that's what you're looking for, I'm your guy, So everybody on the resume looks great. What I find is that particularly if you've got a few people on your team already, make sure you're not the only one doing the interview. Get the whole team involved, get them to meet everybody and find out what their passions are. Because, in most cases, you're going to have to teach them the job anyway, right? Very few classes are going to teach you in university on how to do a very specific job in a very specific industry. So you're going to have to teach them how to do the job anyway. I look for key things. What are their passions? What really, as my mother would say, what melts their chocolate? What's going to get them really excited to come to work every day? And then figure out if that passion is going to translate to your work. We actually have developed a really fun online assessment where we assess people's passions at work. We call it the Motivators Assessment. And, it takes you like 20 minutes. You do it. And it's a great thing to bring into an interview. It's a great thing for you to do for new hires. That says, what are your top 7 motivators? If money is a big motivator for you and I'm hiring you to be in sales, that's probably a pretty good fit. If social responsibility is really high and I'm hiring you to be a salesperson, that may not be such a good fit, right? If family ranks really high, I'm going to be really careful about having you work those 80-hour weeks, 6 and 7 weeks in a row, because being with your family is going to be important. So that's something that we really take a look at. Now, whether you have an assessment or not, through good questions, you can figure out, where does this person's passion lie? What are they looking for as far as a work-life balance or work-life harmony, which is, I think, a better way to explain how you manage, your work and life. I think if anybody is going to be really good at what they do, their life is going to be out of balance. The trick is, where can you find harmony? Where can you find those moments where you can really make work and life integrate into a way that brings happiness to everyone who's important in your life? So, those couple of things I think are important. Make sure the team is on board with who you hire. I made that mistake before, became so enamored with somebody, hired them on the spot, and the team said, what the heck were you thinking? Resume is great. Personality is not what we're looking for. He's making us miserable. Took us years to get out of that contract, which was unfortunate. And by the way, good guy, like a good guy, bad fit. We spend a lot of time talking about culture. You can have really good people that just are not a good cultural fit, right? And identifying passions is a big part of that. Is that helpful? Does that make sense?
That is awesome. That is so awesome. I would add to that as well. When you start to find other people's passions, you start to find values.
Right.
And when I hire, I look to see if the values align. So I'll ask some pretty pertinent questions, and I'll know whether or not, within how that person answers, whether or not they're going to fit with the values. For example, we value quick turnaround. We value here at Unique Designs, thorough communication. whether it's between team or client. So if somebody's, a little shy or timid or afraid to commute or interact with others, probably not going to be a good fit here. If they like to work up by themselves, great. We need those types of people out there as well. But as far as this organization, it's like family. So,
well, see, you've got a great point there. You say, look, we're all about quick turnaround. There's a lot of pressure there. If you don't work well under pressure, this probably isn't going to be a happy place for you.
Exactly.
But so those are wonderful qualifiers.
Yeah, I love what you said though before. Not a bad person, just not the right fit. That goes for team. That also goes for clients. Like, we really got to remember that. Not everybody is our client either. So again, conversation for another day. We're talking about teams. We're talking about organization. We're talking about culture. Very, very important to build a strong team infrastructure around you to help you build and grow. So, there's a lot of things that I could take this 15 different directions, but let me ask you for, as an expert in this field, where do you see most breaks where the leaks start to come in? Like, where does that happen? Is it lack of confidence? What are some big problems with today's leadership?
Yeah, one thing that you pointed out in one of your qualifying questions that I like a lot is transparency. Over communicating. You can't be afraid to come up. Now, in our book, we looked at a lot of data around teams, as you might guess, and why you invited me to be on your show, about how the best team wins. And one of those is that you have to create a culture where you can challenge everything, right? Everything. Well, you can't challenge everything if you don't feel safe, right? If you don't feel like there's open and honest communication. We did a wonderful case study on Bell helicopters where they needed to improve their design. And so with their aviation engineers, they brought in, sci-fi movie designers and video game designers to design their next generation helicopter. Well, you might guess that the aviation engineers were not crazy about that idea. You're going to bring guys into a room that have no idea how to actually make a helicopter fly, because in a video game, everything flies, right? So what they really had to do is put in these ground rules. And you've got to create this, what's called psychological safety. In other words, there aren't bad ideas or there aren't mistakes. There are just opportunities and challenges. You challenge the idea. You challenge the problem, not the person. Once it starts to get personal, that's when it breaks down. And you're asking, where do teams start to leak? I think it's when it starts to get personal. When you say, well, she never has a good idea, right? Or someone comes up with an idea and you go, I seriously, like, you thought that was a good idea? Did you graduate from high school? Those kinds of things. And once that starts to happen, people clam up, they shut down. You've created an unsafe environment. I love their rule. We challenge the idea, not the person. People are good people. I challenge you to find someone who regularly gets up in the morning and says, my goal today is I'm going to screw up. In fact, I'm going to set a goal to screw up at least 5 times today. And I'm going to keep track on the board. I'm going to set that goal, and by golly, I'm going to hit it by noon. People come to work wanting to do a good job. They make mistakes. And if they don't feel safe about admitting those mistakes, then they hide them. And like you say, that's where leaks happen. All of a sudden you break trust. Where's the communication? Where's the credibility? Where's the honor? Where's the integrity? So it all comes back to me is, how are you creating the right culture, a safe culture? Look, we're all going to make mistakes. The biggest thing we can do when we make a mistake is figure out how to fix it and move on.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. I'll give you a very candid example. We have a couple different teams here at Unique Design. So we'll have a ClickFunnels team that just builds out all the ClickFunnels landing pages. It's a software for those folks that don't know what ClickFunnels is. It's a software where you can build landing pages pretty quickly and really sell quick online. And so we have a team just dedicated to doing that type of work. And for whatever reason, there's been a breach in communication. My project manager, whether or not she communicated properly, but it took like a week to get a response back. And so I went to their project manager, the team's project, because I just talked to the top, right? And I tell them, where did the breakdown in communication happen? I want to be able to fix that so that the next time this happens, we turn this edit around in a day, not a week, right? And so he explained. He was like, this is exactly where it broke down. The link wasn't correct. We were confused. And I just had to remind him. I said, listen, this is why we're here. We're here to help each other. If you're confused, if you're stuck, I mean, you have me on Skype dial. That's like the bat phone. Like, there's no reason to ever let anything go. So I wasn't attacking him. I was attacking the conversation or the situation at hand. How can we make this better next time? I'm not worried about it. We'll get it fixed. We already communicated to the client. The client knows that we're running a little bit behind. Again, this open communication. When I was able to do that, one, I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen again. And if it does, we'll have a sit down, right? But other than that, it's how you communicate. You don't know how many entrepreneurs I talk to that are starting to build these virtual teams. So teams from overseas, and they're barking at these people that are working their tails off for these guys and gals. They're barking at them like they're children, right? Like, and I tell them, I'm saying, if you ever talk to me like that, I'd hang up the phone. Like, we're done here. Like, I don't deserve to be spoken to like that. So it's how you communicate, I think, is a strong way of saying, be conscious of how you're treating these folks. And again, don't focus on the person, focus on the problem.
Right. And see that, you're in a way, you're defending your people, right? You say, look, I've got good people. This just happened to be one mistake. In your relationships, with your partner or your wife or your husband, whoever it is, if after one mistake you blew up and you ended the relationship, I guarantee you're not going to have very many relationships, right? So I think people kind of get that. They understand that people make mistakes. Nobody likes it. It's how you handle the mistake that differentiates you. And by the way, when you've got a culture where people feel safe and they can ideate and they can bring in new ideas, that's really healthy. That helps you grow and develop. And those are the things you're looking for. That's what you want. Yeah. And so as you're going through that whole interviewing process, right, you're asking questions. What are you passionate about? How do you feel about quick turnaround? When you make a mistake, how do you handle that? Are you willing to admit you're wrong? What is the best way for me to communicate with you? Is it going to be picking up the phone? Is it going to be Zoom or Skype? Is it going to be just a text? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got the best way. And now there's so many ways to communicate, right? You want to make sure you've got that down. If I need to get a hold of you in a hurry, how do I do that? And it's funny, with my kids, I remember how hilarious it was when I would phone them, right? And they would text me back. And I'd say, why are you texting me back? They said, Dad, if I could disable the phone app on my phone, I would. I don't. So the way we fix that in our relationship, right? Attack the problem, not the person. I'd say, to my son Garrett, last time I checked, your room and board and tuition was paid for by me. So the exception to the rule is when your dad calls, you pick up. And you know what? He was really good about it.
I love it. That is so good. At the end of the day, when I get into those situations with my team, I say, help me, help you. Help me, help you. And that's the philosophy that I run my business on, and it helps tremendously. Working with 12 different individuals from 12 different countries and 4 different time zones. It's having that patience, having that mentoring, and parenting may not be the right word, but the nurturing of the group.
Well, mentoring, I think, is the right word. And you touched on something with a lot of startups and small teams that's really important. And I love the quote from John Wooden, the legendary UCLA basketball coach. He said, hey, we treat everybody fair and differently. right? We're going to treat everybody fair. We're going to treat you fairly, and we're going to treat you differently. You're in a different time zone. English may be your second language. You're fairly new to the industry. I'm going to be fair with you. I'm going to treat you differently than someone that's been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
And, English is their first language, and on and on. There are all these qualifiers where the time zone is, we're in the same time zone, right? So those things I think are really important. You talked about patience. I think that is really key. I do a lot of executive coaching now, and a lot of people ask me about how do I develop a better executive presence? And I said, a pause before you talk is always helpful. You're going to want to blurt something out. I just want you to just pause, give it a little thought before you speak, and you'll be amazed at how much that will help you communicate better, develop better relationships, be more patient, be more understanding. So often we want to just jump right in, right? And we know the answer, and we know where you went wrong. Just that pause, that patience is so important when you're mentoring people. And you know what? Everything can wait 2 or 3 seconds. Maybe not 2 or 3 weeks, right? 2 or 3 seconds. I could find 2 or 3 seconds to pause, ponder, think, and give you a more measured response.
It's so important. See, I have a 21-month-old son, so I know what patience is all about during this time, and just watching him grow and evolve. I'm like, you just want to do it for him, right? But he's not going to get the value out of that, and you have to let him fall. You have to let him get back up. You have to sort of coach, like I said, mentor him in a way where he's going to learn the lesson. It may take a little longer, but he's going to learn the lesson in the long run. So I want to get into the doc's prescription now. Oh my God, there's so much to talk about, but I 2 really big highlights that I want to talk about today and point our audience in the right direction is really taking the time to get to know your team and either before you hire them, ask those pertinent questions like, what are you passionate about? I take it a step further. Once they come on board, what I do is every Friday, I block out 30 minutes. And so there's 12 people on my team. So we have a 12-week rotation. Everybody gets to sit down with me for 30 minutes on a Friday morning. And they can come to me with anything, personal or professional. And I'm undivided attention, and I just help them get through whatever that is. And then at the end of the 12 weeks, we start from the top and we do it all over again. And, that builds tremendous amount, like you said, the safety. They feel comfortable around me. They feel comfortable around the other individuals around the team. When you build that I can't explain to you. Sometimes we'll have time-sensitive things that I got to have a guy jump on it on a Sunday morning and get it ready for Monday. I don't have a problem asking for that. And they're ready, willing, and able to do it because we've built that relationship. We've built that trust. So really take the time. If you're looking to go long-term with your business and really grow it and build it substantially, you got to invest in your people and you got to show them how much you care. Number 1. Number 2, challenge the idea, not the person. I am so guilty of this. I used to attack the person that I wanted to go after, whether it was a client or a team member. Sure. And that's not the way you want to handle any situation like that because the tempers are already flared. So you may have to do what you need to do to calm down and get to center. But at the same time, you got to approach the situation. Where did this break? And not pinpoint the person, but pinpoint the problem. When you focus clearly on that, it's going to be a win-win. And I can promise you that you'll have a better chance of it not happening again in the future if you handle it that way. So,
Absolutely. I know our time is getting short here, and I wanted to share with you one best practice that I've used with almost every executive I've ever coached, any team we've ever dealt with, and that's the importance of reflection. As we've studied leadership for the last 20 years, it's really interesting as I ask leaders, what is one of the things you do to keep focused, to keep on track, to keep, really, really grow and develop as a leader and grow your team? So often they tell me I take time to reflect. I take time, whether it's at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, to pause and ask certain questions. What did we set out to do? What happened? What did we learn? And what are we going to carry forward? I love those 4 questions. What did we set out to do? What happened? What did we learn? What are we going to carry forward? And I'll tell you a great practice, Henry, and I don't know if you do this or not. I've been doing it for a few years now, is a gratitude journal. I'm a huge fan. Whether it's at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, there you go, you've got it perfect. Is you write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. So often we get caught up in the moment and the pressures of the moment, and we think, oh my God, take a minute and say, look, some great things happened today. And give yourself a bit of a long view. Look where we were 2 years ago. Look where we were 6 months ago. Look where we are now. Think of the people that helped you get there. Think of the people that support and love and care for you. Think of just simple things that have made your day a great day. It was a great day outside. I was able to spend some time with my 21-year-old little baby, and I went out in the stroller and he saw a bird for the first time, or, ate a worm for the first time, whatever that is. Those few minutes, and believe me, it takes less than 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then what I love to do, because I keep a paper journal, I like the tactile thing. Go back 3 or 4 days. Yeah. Say, what was I grateful for 4 days ago, 5 days ago, a week ago, a month ago? And for me, I don't know what it is for you, Henry. So often it's people. It's my wife, it's my kids, it's my partner in business. It's my minister, it's a teacher, it's a mentor, it's Marshall Goldsmith. Who you and I both come to know and adore. Just his giving spirit. And I'll tell you, it calms you down. Studies have showed that you sleep better, you handle stress better, you build more meaningful relationships. If there's one takeaway from our session, I hope it's that, right? Just take a minute to reflect and be grateful. We live in such a privileged, country stratosphere. 99% of the world would trade places with you and me in a nanosecond. All our problems we think are problems. Believe me, there are people out there that have real problems, and they're not ours. We should be grateful for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I have this little thing on my phone. So I was at Advertising Week last year and I got to meet Seth Godin, and he was handing these out, and I was like, I got to grab one of these. He's got a little info in the front, but then it's just a notepad. And man, like you said, you have to take from the day, and the way you take from the day is reflection. Right. I'm a huge Jim Rohn guy and big fan. And that was one of the things he said in one of the audibles I was listening to. He's like, you have to take from the day. So you need that time at the end to reflect and say, and ask those 4 questions, which you posed so perfectly. What was another thing I was going to say? Oh, I get a lot of private messages on Instagram and Facebook, and what I do is anything that comes in that's somewhat of a testimonial, I'll screenshot it with my phone, and I created a folder in my albums called Gratification. And I was able to, so I drag the image over to that folder. And anytime I'm feeling in a funk, or anytime I go into that folder and I just start reading, seconds, I'm out of it. It's
great. You look at that and say, well, that day I wasn't horrible. That day I was actually pretty good. I think it's so funny that your gratitude journal is orange and so is mine.
That is no coincidence, my friend. I'm telling you.
Do you know that orange, I always wear orange, by the way. Do you know orange is the color of positivity?
I believe it. I believe it. As a designer, I need to know those things.
Exactly. It's so funny. Our work started, we wrote a book called The Carrot Principle. Very simple premise. Somebody does something great, you give them a carrot. And so orange really became our color. I've got an orange face to my watch, and I wear our little all-in orange wristband. I will tell you, though, when we go and speak and we coach and we train, Somebody does something great, we give them a carrot. You know, the old Aesop's fable, you get more with carrots than sticks. And this is our carrot.
I love
So you know what? When we get off the air, I want you to send me your mailing address because your little baby needs this carrot toy, and I am happy to send it to him.
He will love it. He will love it. Before we go, we have to get to today's question from the community. I know sure. I'm going to get you out of here soon. So the question is, where does one start when it comes to building a team? I'm going to give a real brief answer just for the sake of time, sure. and I'm going to throw it over to you. One thing that really, really helped me when I was growing and building my team for the first time was diving into the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And I was able to really dissect that book, and he was able to help me sort of formulate the structure inside of my business. You know, I just read this book by Michael Francis. He was an old mafia guy. And he explained how the mafia kept it really, really simple as far as their organizational structure. But if you don't have one for your business, you definitely have to map that out. Who's the boss? Who's the and start to layer it all out. That's going to give you a clear direction of who it is that you're going to need on your team, number one. And then number two, how do you fill those spots? And so I think we gave you a lot of great initial steps on how to hire, and we could go into detail on this on another episode, but finding out who you need and then fill in those spots. Chester, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I would even go a step before that. What's your purpose and your passion? You know, what do you really know? Not just what are you going to do and how you're going to do it. Really, you really have to answer that why. Why are we doing what we do? And why should people, you know, ask us to help them do it, right? What gives us the credibility? What gives us? And I will tell you, you know, I keep going back to my first manager, who was my father. You know, and he would always say, you know, Chess, there's no substitute for enthusiasm. And enthusiasm comes from purpose and passion. You know, why are we doing this? How are we going to make a difference? And then I think you're exactly right. And then you start to put together your structure. Who's going to have the final say? Because we're going to have at a certain point, somebody's got to make a call. You know, or as my dad would say, at a certain point, you got to pull the trigger. You got to get going. And so I agree 100% with what you said. I would just back up the step before that is you identify your purpose and passion, and that will get you through hard times. You know, that will get you through the tough times because you want to make a difference. You're convinced that you're going to be able to do it. And then when things start to fall apart and it gets really tough, to me, that's what pulls you through.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Chester, where can people learn more about you and your mission and vision, and how can they become part of it?
Thank you for that. You know, we love to write and research. You can find our books on Amazon. Just Google Adrian Gostick or search Adrian Gostick or Chester Elton. It'll pull up our books. We've got a great book on culture, All In. We've got a great book on teamwork, The Best Team Wins. Those are two of our key books that I would look at. We have a wonderful training company, thecultureworks.com, all kinds of white papers and stuff on there. And then you can find me at chesterelton.com. That's, you know, we do a lot of speaking and coaching and training. So between our books on Amazon, The Culture Works for our training, and Chester Elton for our speaking, believe me, you'll know more about me than you really want to know.
I love it. Chester, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights and wisdom to my audience. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. You know, I'm going to tease your audience just a little bit. We've got a new book coming out the beginning of next year. It'll be March, so we're way ahead of the schedule. It's all about leadership and gratitude. And, you know, when it comes time to kick off the book, we might want to get together again.
I think that might be a good idea.
Okay, dude. Hey, all the best. Have fun with that little baby.
Thanks, Chester.
Cheers.
There you have it, guys. Another episode in the books. Real quick, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't written a quick little written review on iTunes, head over to iTunes right now. Write that quick little written review. Let me tell you something. That is the fuel that lights this show up. And I read every single one of them. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop some comments below. Ask us questions. If you want to further this conversation, I'm here for you guys. I want to help you guys build a profitable and reputable brand around you and your business and really watch you grow. So without further ado, last but not least, I forgot. we have the Brand Yourself course available now on my website. If you go to uniquedesignswithaz.net, if you are looking for a blueprint, a structure, a system to help you build your business online and really give you the systematic approach to it all, I literally take 13 years of experience and compile it down to 4 hours. I left no rock unturned here with this course. Go check it out. I'll leave it in the description. I'll leave it in the show notes. Go check it out. I know you won't be disappointed. Have an amazing day, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.
You've been listening to the Brand Doctor Podcast with Henry Kaminski Jr. To get your appointment with the doctor, visit Brand Audit at www.uniquedesigns.net.